chapters. I don't think we're going to finish the second chapter today, but we might get close.
Okay, that works.
It works.
Sorry.
No, we're not gonna actually get close. But for this next section, we'll finish this next section hopefully. The section that we're going on, and we're talking about these first two prakim. We're working on the midah of keter, right? The highest midah of Hashem's ultimate compassion. And if we would give just one koteret, one headline, we would say to shift ourselves to becoming more loving, kind, compassionate people, in order to draw down Hashem's compassion and loving kindness, right? And so that's a great headline, and that's a great, if we could just like plaster that in our consciousness, right? And like think about it 1,000 times a day, so already we would be doing wonderful, right? Even if we think about it 2 times a day, we'd be doing wonderful. But the Ramak is telling us specifically how to use all the different parts of our body and all of our kochot nefesh in order to be able to achieve this, right? So last week we spoke about the forehead, very interesting things about the forehead, you guys recall, and we spoke about the ears, and now we're on the chamishit. We're talking about the eyes. And says the Ramak the following. He says, chamishit enav, the fifth is our eyes, lo yistakel behem b'shum devar meguneh. Then the person should not look at anything meguneh. Meguneh, I guess it would translate as
Bad, disgraceful.
Not nice. It's not even necessarily on an ethical level, but to look at something, not something like for instance, you see something dirty on the street. Not to spend our time looking at dirty things. He's more focused here, speaking about seeing that spiritually, looking at negatives in other people on a spiritual level, right? To look at where a person is weak, to look where a person is struggling, to look where a person is not successful, right? Or all their bad midot, right? So we shouldn't look. We shouldn't look. We have a concept of shmirat einayim.
I want to look only at tzaddikim like that.
We should look. We have a concept of shmirat einayim, of guarding our eyes, right? Which you guys remember what I said about one of my friends about when the Rebbitzin told him, you're not allowed, when we were talking to Fabringen, you're not allowed to look at, you're not supposed to look at women, right? And he said, what are you talking about? And she said, the first look is free, the second one you have to pay for, right? The first, you can't help what comes in front of you, right? We live in a world, we're not supposed to go like this and like close our eyes, right? Maybe in some places, right? I told you guys the story about Tel Aviv when I was in Tel Aviv, right?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah. I went to Tel Aviv. I had some meeting for something. I can't remember what. In the middle of July. Tel Aviv in July is, for a religious man, it's not an easy place to go walking around. So I said, okay, I'm preparing myself. I said, I'm going to do shmirat einayim. I'm just going to look forward. I'm not going to go like this because then I'll run into a wall or something. But I'm going to go like, just be focused here. Not yamin, not small. And I got to a red light, a crosswalk, and it was red. And right there on the ground in front of me was a advertisement of some type of party, a picture of a girl that's totally naked. So I said, you can't win in this world. If I would look yamin or small, I would have seen half naked people. But here, I'm working on it, and I saw fully naked, right? So we don't have control, gentlemen. And our generation is a generation where there's never been anything like this.
And the traffic light was red?
What's that? The traffic was red. I was waiting just to cross the street. That's why I got stuck. There was no way out, right? So, if you're driving, a friend of mine used to be a delivery driver in Yerushalayim back 40 years ago, and he said, I have to quit my job. He said, why? Because everywhere you go, left and right, there's things that I'm trying not to look at, right? And so he asked one of the Ziknei Breslov, Rabbi Micha Dorfman. And so he told me, he said, what can you do? You have to make a parnasa. What can you do? Meaning, it's not our job to literally close our eyes to the world and not see this world. What do you continue looking at? Right? That's the shmirat einayim. Right? And not just what do you continue looking at, but also we don't want our eyes. Our eyes are not a hefker, a place of hefker. Our eyes and our mind is a place of holiness, right? That my world of thought, my world of vision, right? The eyes are the window into the soul. That's a belief that we have, right? What we look at has a tremendous impact on us, right? Not just on the reception level, but also on a what we put out when we're looking at something. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I have to relate to my eyes that like I can't just go, just soak it all in. Just like on in my mouth, I wouldn't just go and eat everything that is in the shuk. Right? I'm careful about what I put in my mouth. So also my eyes. My eyes are a very important part. So I have that what I do once something has gotten in there that I shouldn't continue looking at. Right? That's one thing. But then there's another level that precedes that, before that. That what's my orientation of looking into this world? How do I place myself? What stance am I in as I have this thing called vision? I have these eyes that I'm looking into the world, right? What am I looking for? What am I not looking for? So before that, we thought that before we make that statement to ourselves, we think that my eyes are it's a free for all, but it's not true. I can have a like I said, an orientation how I'm looking at the world, and that's a very conscious thing. And so that's what the tzaddik's saying here. Lo yistakel behem b'shum davar meguneh. I train myself not to look at inappropriate things, right? On any level. I tell people even, like I said, even dirty things, right? Or like Chazal say, if animals are procreating, you're not supposed to look at them, right? What are you talking about? It's animals. It's on National Geographic, right? It's right. No, a Jew's not supposed to look at those things, right? Of course, everything that we see gives us all kinds of thoughts, no matter what we're looking at, right? But when I see somebody, just like when I see somebody if I see somebody that's dressed inappropriately, I don't want to look because I'm not supposed to look at those parts of their body. So too, if I see a person who's behaving inappropriately, or they're something in them is inappropriate, I don't want to look at those places, right? I want to see the good places inside of the person. I don't want to be looking to find the negative. You want to say something? You've been waiting so patiently.
Maybe you know better than me, but I just remember the Rabbi was walking with his student, and there was a river. He wanted to cross the river. You know the story?
Keep on going. Let's see it.
And he saw a girl that was trying to cross the river, and the rabbi, very religious, went there, took the girl, his arms, crossed the river. He went away. The students was looking. Rav, you tell me all the time, don't look, don't take the woman. Yes, I took her, but you still keeping her with your mind.
Right, beautiful. All right, so it's interesting that in the Mishnah it says that you guys remember the Mishnah that says you should be how to translate this one? Az kenamer, kal ketzvi, should be brazen like a tiger. Kal ketzvi. What has it?
He's a deer.
Tzvi is a deer, like it's light like a deer.
Light on your feet, kind of.
No. Ratz ketzvi. Sorry, fast like a deer. Kal kenesher, light like an eagle. Gibor ke'ari, and strong like a lion. Right. So the Tur explains that each one of those is talking about a different aspect of Avodat Hashem. It's not just saying, hey, these are great midot to have. Right. So the kal kenesher. So what do you think? Light like an eagle. What would you say? What's that talking about? I would say an eagle. Do you guys know how an eagle flies? How they soar? They find pockets of wind, pockets of air, because hot air goes up, right? Cold air goes down. So they find pockets of hot air and they rest right on the top of that pocket of air. That's how they're able to soar, right? Unlike other birds that aren't right. So, but they look like they're like light, right? Have you ever seen an eagle just in Eretz Yisrael? You see them all the time. It's just the most amazing thing. Right?
Never seen eagle. I haven't seen him here.
I haven't seen it. I don't think. Don't catch me. It's not officially an eagle. It's a kind of hawk, but there's tons of them where I live all the time, and you can hear them squealing. And there's actually a midrash that says that Moshe Rabbeinu said that if he has to come back, he wants to come back as one of those. But anyway, so there's right. You'd think that that's what it's talking about. The kal kanesha, right? I can float, and I'm not stuck anywhere. I'm not rigid. That's not what it's talking about. The Torah says it's talking about their eyes, right? The eagle, when he's flying, he surveys everything, right? So he picks his up eyes quickly from this thing to the next thing. So to us, says the Torah, you should be light. Don't be heavy that you see something and you're stuck looking at it and you can't peel yourself away. No, train yourself to be, right? Zariz, to be alacritous, to move with your eyes, but mostly train yourself to be looking for the good, not to be looking for bad. If I see bad, I shuffle it away. Right? I do a two-step, Texas two-step, as I'm saying, get around it. Omnam tiena tamid pokuchot lehashkiach, and my eyes should always be open and focusing lehashkiach ulerachem ala umlalim, to notice and to have compassion for people that are in need. Right? And there's some people that they're looking for dirt. Right? Not nice to say, but everybody knows somebody like that. They're always looking for something negative in somebody else, right? And even if they find someone that's like amazing, like off the charts, great, everybody knows that. Yeah, they're great, but there's always the but, right? Right? There's one thing, right? So that's a whole subject within itself. So he's saying we should always be looking into people. Don't be aloof. Don't be separate from the world. It's true, you need to be protective of yourself, not to take in all kinds of things, not to be looking at negative things, but you should be very present and you're looking in the world, looking for people that need help, looking for people that are in need, looking for a way that you can help, right? And now here I've got these next two words underlined with a double underline, kefi kocho, according to your ability. And in the way of the tzaddikim, they guide you so perfectly and exactly with their words. You can't help everything. I was once in India, and travelers in India, there's a well-known thing that you can't go to India for. I don't know what it's like today. Maybe India's changed. I have a student learned here from India, and he says that it's changed a little bit, but I don't know how much it's changed. But there's so much poverty in India, and it used to be everyone say it takes about a month to a month and a half to get used to being there. When you're non-Indian, you're not used to it, and then you can enjoy. But after that, it's hard, right? What does that mean? It's not because of the food and the water, right? I mean, maybe also, but it's talking about because everywhere you go, people are swamping you all the time for money, for tzedakah, right? If you would give to everybody, even just your first instance that happens, you'd run out of money for the rest of your trip, right? So what does it mean to get used to it? This was my parish, at least. Was to be able to close your eye to it, desensitize, become desensitized to the needs of all, right? And there's a lot of, don't get me started on India. We'll talk about it off camera. But anyway, I can't help everybody, right? There's a line Chazal say that tzorchei amcha merubim, Ribbon Shalom, the needs of your nation are abundant. There's so many needs Am Yisrael needs, right? But their minds are not strong enough to be able to contain it, or to be able to. We can't help everybody. You need to help us, right? But as a Yid, I want to. If I'm coming from, this is so important for us to. This point is just so important for us to focus on. If I'm coming from a society that the orientation was, I'm coming from America. There's maybe like one or two others here in the room that are like that. But wherever you're coming from, if it's a little bit similar to American society, each man for themselves, right? I got to take care of myself. I'll be nice to you, right? We're very nice on the streets, and to the friendly neighbors, right? But like, I'm not looking to like heal the world, to save people, and to maybe, if that's my calling or whatever. But for the most part, like each person for themselves, you have to protect yourself. Am Yisrael, we have a different orientation. Gentlemen, our orientation is we are one. We need to be looking out for each other. I need to be noticing. I need to be sensitive to what's going on with you. Maybe the person doesn't know how to ask for what he needs. what's hurting him. I need to be looking for that, right? He's looking for the word, looking for the good word, looking for a little bit of help, right? So, but with all that, kefi kocho, according to what your abilities are, right? You might not have $1 million in the bank to be able to give everybody that you know that needs, a couple thousand shekels this month to make it through, and you might not have time. But you have to find some way. You have to be noticing with the needs of people and see how you're able to give, right? Each person according to what they're able to give. Here it says there's a. No, I think it's a different place. There's a Gemara that I wanted to mention. Here it is. In Baba Batra, it says, "Anoten pruta la'ani." If you give a coin to a poor person, you give him a little bit of tzedakah. Mitbarech b'shesh brachot. So you're blessed with 6 different blessings. The Gemara says. But if you give him a good word, if you give him a nice word of comfort, mitbarech b'achates brachot. So you're blessed with 11 blessings. Right? So sometimes we think that tzedakah that's the way that I can give, right? Or we're very limited in the way that we see how we're able to help other people. Here it's saying, be creative, see what the needs are, and see according to your ability. You can't push yourself and break yourself to help everybody else, but you have to push yourself a little bit to see what you can do, what you really are able to do. And therefore, it says in Navas de Rabbi Nosson, it says that if you give a person tzedakah, if you give him all the money in the world, listen to this amazing chazal. If you give him all the money in the world, but you give it with a bitter face, it's as if you gave them nothing. And if you give them nothing, but you give them a shining face and a word of comfort and strength, it's as if you gave them all the money in the world. As Chazal said that in Abbas Rabbi Nosson. Right? So see what you're able to do. And even though it's out of your comfort zone a little bit, it's different from the way that you grew up, but that's what is expected of us, to push ourselves a little bit according to our limitations. And another aspect that we use our eyes for keter is if you see a person going through a struggle, you see the poor person, for instance, who needs tzedakah, don't close your eyes. Don't pretend like you didn't see. Right? You might not have money to give them. It's not saying that you have to break your bank account to take care of the poor person, right? If you're not able to do it, you're not able to do it. But don't turn your eye. So what are you supposed to do? Let's hear. What do you guys think? What can I give him? I can't give him money. I go and I try to give him a word of comfort. He says, "I don't want your comfort. I want your money." Right? What are you supposed to do at that point?
I think that a word of comfort sometimes is more than 2 checks. Okay?
Right? That's true. And let's say you give him the word of comfort. He says, but I'm still hungry.
You can direct him to somebody that could help.
Direct him to somebody who can help. Right? There's no shortage of soup kitchens in Yerushalayim and places where a person can get food and help and the tmicha that they need. But what about, even if not, what if you don't have the time? What if you're running to a meeting and you just see this guy on the street? Huh? Invite him for Shabbos. Maybe your wife says, like, we're not having any guests this Shabbos. It's too much. It's overwhelming for me.
Pray for him.
Huh? Pray for him.
Pray, like, I hope he gets whatever tzedakah he needs.
Yeah.
Or she, whatever it is.
Yeah. I'll give you guys an amazing thing to do. This is a great thing for you to do. It's something that everybody can take on. And a lot of people do this. In Israel, a lot of people have a custom that when you're driving on the street and you see an accident, so you say a kapitel Tehillim, you say a chapter of Tehillim. You don't know who it is. You don't know what happened, right? Or you see an ambulance going, you don't know, right? Whatever it is, you say a kapitel Tehillim. You see an ambulance driving down the street going to pick somebody up, you say a kapitel Tehillim. Right? It should be good. It should be good. Whatever it is, it should be good for Am Yisrael. It should be good for them. Hashem should send them a refuah shlema, Yeshua, right? There's even a very, very well-known story in Israel that a woman did this, and she saw an accident. It looked like a bad accident, and she said she was stuck, and the traffic was inching along, and she said to some Tehillim. She didn't know who was there, what happened, right? And a few months later, a woman calls her and says, "Are you so and so?" And she said, "Yeah." And she said, I just want to thank you." So what? She said that there was an accident on the road a few months ago. I was the one that was in the accident, and my soul was between heaven and earth. and I was experiencing my soul leaving me, and going up, and there was words of prayer. There was words of Tehillim that were stopping my neshama and bringing me back down, right? And somehow she knew it was her. I don't know if she saw whatever she saw, or she knew her. I don't know exactly how, but this is a well-known story. It's brought in a lot of different places, right? The way you could do chesed, I can't help you, my friend. I'm so sorry. I can't help you. I can't have you for Shabbos. I can't give you a shekel. I can't do it. Let me say a shtickle. Let me say a tefillah for you, right? Kafi kocho, right? But just because the point that I'm making is just because I can't help you in the traditional ways or the ways that you want to be helped right now, I'm not going to close my eyes. And and the last thing I'll say about that is even if I don't say Tehillah, but I just feel a little bit of a drop of compassion for you at that moment, that itself does something, right? Let's not let ourselves become desensitized to the needs. Be open to the needs of others, and then figure out. It's a different question. What can I actually do for you, right? See, to separate those two. And rather, what should you do? You should contemplate in your mind this person. What can I do for him? Kefi kocho. Right? Again, the Ramak says, according to your strength, according to your ability. Right now, I don't have time to do that. 2 seconds. Give him help. That's what I could do for you. Right? So, and you should arouse compassion from Hashem upon him, bifnei shamayim, or bifnei abriyot, or other people that can help him, right? Or before Hashem, down before Hashem. And we should distance ourselves from all aspects of looking for negative, looking for bad in the world. Whether it's people who are negative, right? To try to stay away. We don't have to necessarily throw that person out of our lives, but to stay away from conversations like that, to try to steer the conversations towards the good, right? Let's look at the good. Let's try to find the good. It says this, by doing this is, you're attaching yourself to the ayin el-yonah, to the exalted eye, the eye of Hashem in the midah of Keter, which is focused like an eagle on the world. What are the needs of everybody? How can I help everybody? How can I bring good? Always looking to give you good. I remember when I was a kid at the Shabbos table, my mother, she's not like the most quiet woman in the world. My mother's a quiet woman, but she's not like, a silent woman. But at the Shabbos table, she would just sit there quietly the whole time, and she would just be smiling and looking at her children, looking at myself and my 2 brothers. and when I got a little bit older, I reflected upon it, and I remember feeling so much goodness and warmth and love and support coming from my mother, just in her eyes, looking at you, right? She was looking. What was she looking for? Maybe she was just soaking in nachas. I don't know how much nachas we were giving her during those years, but she was looking with it was a look of I want to give to you. What else can I give to you? Right? This motherly, right? So that's like the ayin el-yonah. That's the exalted eye of Keter. Pekucha, it's always open, umistakelet, and looking tamid el hatov, always at the good and how I can give good, right? Okay, that's the eyes. It's pretty good, right? And now, gentlemen, we're going on to one that this one is maybe the most pili, the most wondrous of all, in the sense that nobody ever thought, just like we thought, how am I supposed to serve Hashem with my forehead? Nobody thought that was even an option to think about before last week. And now we're going to talk about our nose, right? And he's not going to tell us to make a bracha on smelling spices. Hashishit b'chotmo, on his nose. And he says, Me'olam lo yimatzebo charon af klal. And in our nose, there should never be anger, ever. What do you guys say about that?
When a person gets angry, their nostrils flare. So your nostrils flaring is like the physical, because anger is all up here, but the physical manifestation of anger is flared nostrils.
Exactly, right?
Hashem gets angry with his nose, no?
Right. So Hashem doesn't really have a nose, but that's the figuratively speaking, yeah, exactly, right? Right. The way that Chazal, the way that the Psukim Tanakh talks about anger, is charon af. Charon. I don't know exactly the shorish of charon, but I think it's from chor, from the nostrils, right? The holes and our nose, charon af, the holes of our nose, right? So you can't. There's not really a direct translation for that, but that's the word for af. Af is anger. Charon af. Af is also a word for the nose.
But not Aleph Bet. How you write this off?
Af, aleph pei.
Aleph. Oh, Aleph. Okay.
Af. Right, not av.
Yeah, because
Right, not aleph bet. Aleph pei. Right. So here's my thoughts about it. You can take it or leave it. The Ramak doesn't say this is now. It's just Micha, so you can put your pins down. You don't have to write anything. What is anger? This is like Chetzi therapist Micha talking now. What is anger? Anger is always, therapeutically speaking, and psychologically speaking, anger is always something that's trying to accomplish something. Anger, meaning there's like core emotions. I don't consider anger a core emotion. Sad, happy, right? But anger is, in my opinion, is a secondary emotion. I'm feeling something. I'm feeling under attack. I'm feeling out of control, and anger is my response to try to get back what I'm feeling threatened by, right? Anger is a mechanism that people use. Guess what? It works, right? Because it's scary, right? If I'm trying to get you to do something and you're not listening to me, if I get angry enough, probably you'll listen to me, right? It's a successful thing. The only problem is that it's not good for relationships, and it's not good for bringing holiness into the world, right? But it's very successful at accomplishing the goal of like, I'm trying to get this done. If I'm the boss and my staff is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I've got a deadline, if I'm going to scream enough, so everybody's going to get to work, and afterwards they're going to talk about me behind my back, right, at the coffee corner or whatever. But that's not my concern if I'm the boss. I'm just right. I'm not a good boss if I'm doing that.
You got pizza when they're done.
You give them pizza when they're done. Right. You call it lefatzot. Like a person gets injured at work and you have to pay them whatever, right? You pay them back for the loss that you caused them in your anger. But anger is a when I have no sophisticated, mature methods at my disposal at this moment, because I'm feeling I'm under threat, and the only thing that I feel that I can do is anger. That's the only, right? Because I learned it or I saw it on TV or whatever it is, right? Everybody has abyssal anger, right? And a lot of us have a lot of anger that we inherited from the previous generations as a lesson. Hey, this is how you get done what you need to get done, right? When dad comes home and he's really angry about something, dinner's not ready, right? Dinner's not ready and dad's angry. Right? Everybody knows that. By the way, I'll just say about that point. Gentlemen, before you go home, I tell this to everybody. I usually tell them when they're getting ready to get married. Before you go home, you eat something, no matter what. You eat something. You don't come home hungry. Right? They also teach girls that if your husband calls, he says he's coming home and you don't have dinner ready, so you should chop up onions and start grilling onions because it fills the house with a good smell. He comes home, he feels that there's hope at least, right? Right. But if the kitchen is cold, there's no fire on it, right? You make sure you eat something before you come in. You don't come home on an empty stomach. Period. It's not good for the Jewish people. It's not good for the Shechina Kedosha, right? It's not good for you. Abba comes home, he's hungry and he's angry, right? So besides it being terrifying for the children and abusive to the wife, right? But besides that, he teaches a lesson to his children, especially to his boys. He says, guess what? When you're a man and you're an adult and you're not getting exactly what you want when you want it, this is how you behave, right? But so whatever, we're not blaming anybody here. We're not, everybody has their faults and we all get angry sometime. We're not trying to do that. But just understand. Well, why is the man getting angry? It's just dinner. Doesn't he realize he can chop something up and cook it up in 30 minutes? But he's feeling starving right now, and now he's feeling,
Can't think clearly.
He can't think clearly. He feels like he's under threat. When I'm angry, I feel like I'm under threat. Something's threatening me. It's psychological, it's physical, doesn't matter. But I'm feeling threatened by something, and I have to respond to protect myself. Anger is a protective response. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's a physiological response. That's why for a child it's so terrifying to see an angry adult. Because it's the physical part that you see, right? When you see children, like you're saying about the nostrils there, children can see if the exact millimeter that their parents' nostrils are at, if they're angry or not, right? So therefore, it's a physiological response, and that's why the nostrils open up, and that's why the term, in my opinion, the term for anger is charon af. It's an opening up of the nose, right? So here he's saying b'chotmo me'olam lo yimatzeh bo charon af klal, right? How are you supposed to stop having this physiological response when if you're feeling under threat? I'm just reading my notes here. 1 second. Oh, okay. So it's very easy. This is kind of like one of those statements that the tzaddikim say, always be b'simcha, right? And we've talked about that before. And you say like, "Shkoyach," but I'm not. What am I supposed to do? Like, but you should know it's very bad to be sad, right? Now you just made it a million times worse because I don't know how to get out of it. So here the tzaddik is saying there should never be anger in your nose. Sounds great. But how do I get there? Ela tamid be'apo chaim. Rather, in your nose should be life. We're going to explain what this means in a second. V'ratzon, and goodwill. Ratzon tov ve'arichut af. Arichut af, which literally means, if you literally translate it, means the lengthening of your nose. We're not talking about Pinocchio, right? The lengthening of your nose means, it literally means patience. I mean, the translation is the lengthening of your nose, but the term means patience. So what does that mean? Arichut af. When I'm angry, chas v'shalom, I have kotzer ruach. I have short breath. My breathing becomes short. That's why my nostrils, that's the physiological thing that's happening. My nostrils are opening up because I can't breathe. My heart's pumping, I'm feeling under threat, and my nostrils go open to get more oxygen into my body because I'm feeling at a loss. The opposite of that, and the tikkun of that, is breathing. Taking a deep breath. So now you learn 2 practical things. Before you go home to your wife,
Eat something.
you go to the makolet, doesn't matter. You go anywhere, you eat anything. Even if it's not healthy, I give you permission. Just as long as it's kosher. You eat it, take a bunch of deep breaths. Get ready to have the ratzon tov and the arichut af, the lengthening of the patience of breathing, right? Now he said something here. He said "Ela tamid be'apo chaim," in your nose should be life, right? So this is based on a pasuk that you guys say every morning. Ki rega be'apo chaim b'yotzano. You guys remember that pasuk? It means Moshe Chanukah by David, right? Ki rega be'apo. Rega be'apo, a moment of Hashem's anger. Chaim b'yotzono, in his desire is life. So says the Malbim here something beautiful. He explains it beautifully. He says, Ki rega be'apo, Hashem's anger is a moment. Shezman ha'af lo nimshach habeh. Hashem gets angry. Doesn't mean chas v'shalom anything like our anger, right? Our anger is out of control. Our anger is, like I said, it's a physiological response to feeling under threat. Nothing threatens Hashem. But the Rambam explains that all of the midot have an appropriate time and place. Every single midah, except for anger. Anger has no appropriate place. You guys hear that? Should I repeat that? That's a really important thing. There's a place for patience. There's a place for joy. There's a place for sadness. There's a place for everything. There's a time and a place that it's appropriate, right? Doesn't mean but anger, there's never an appropriate place. However, says the Rambam, there is one appropriate place where a person should sometimes show anger, but he shouldn't actually feel the anger inside, and that's when he's educating his children. Sometimes if if the kid runs across the street and the car is coming, right? So you try. I don't know anybody that couldn't lose their stuff at that moment, but at least you have to show anger at that moment, not crazy out of control anger. But you have to show disappointment. You have to show, right? Because it's an educational tool, right? However, Hashem sometimes has a moment like that, where it's only for our benefit that Hashem has to show some type of anger, right? Even then, it's only for a moment. But even in that anger, it's just a rega, it's just a moment. Even when Hashem is showing the anger, his desire is chaim, is life. He wants me to live. He wants me to have goodness, right? When you're scolding your child because he ran across the street, it's not because you're angry at him and he's a bad boy. It's because you want your child to live. You want him to realize. And he asked, right? So that's how it is with Kodesh Baruch Hu. So in our nose should be life, i.e., should always have a desire for that it should be good for others, right? So if they're doing something that's triggering me or that's upsetting me, right? That means that I'm focusing mostly on myself at this moment. I should be life in my nose. Should be patience, breathing, right? Breathing in Judaism is a major thing, right? Even though today it's a very popular thing with mindfulness and meditation, right? But breathing is a very 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 ancient Jewish meditative practice, right? Rabbi Nachman talks a lot about it in different places, all different kinds of ways. Many places talk about it.
It said in the Midrash that Abraham went to the east to India and there was where they got it from.
He sent the Bnei Keturah.
Yeah.
Right. He sent his children, right? Very interesting sugya, the Bnei Keturah. But the point is that just in the most very basic level, breathe, right? When you're angry, right? When you're angry, breathe through it. Don't respond, right? Strike when the iron is cold, right? If you need to say something, don't say it when things are hot. Wait. Right? They say a story about Rav Dessler. I don't know if this is a true story or not, but the message is true, right? Heard it, I don't know, more than 20 years ago. But they say Rav Dessler. Well, you guys know heard of Rav Dessler?
I have not.
Yeah.
Rav Dessler was a great one of the great leaders of the Litvish world. He passed away in the 1950s. He was brilliant, and he also included a lot of Chassidus also in his last position. He was the mashgiach of Panovich Yeshiva in Bnei Brak. But he was a thinker, and he was a heart. He's kol kulo heart. He had so much heart in his work and very fundamental things in his teachings. Make a long story short, the story goes that once his daughter did something that was very inappropriate, and daughter, son, I think it was a daughter, that and he felt he said he knew he had to educate her about this, and but he had feelings about it. It triggered something in him, so he waited. Because right, we don't ideally, try to educate when it's coming from a place of clarity of mind. He waited. 2 weeks later, he called his daughter into his office, and very calm. He was like totally calm. He got it all out. It was not about him at all. And he said, "Do you remember such and such thing that you did?" And she said, "Yeah." He said, "So I decided that you need to get two patches for that." And he had never given her a patch before, right? And so when we, if we give a patch, our tradition is if a person has to patch their children, to this generation, all the Rabbanim say, don't do it. You shouldn't patch your children. You only have what to lose. But in the old days, the tradition is you do it with your left hand because your left hand is your weak hand. So it shouldn't be. You're not trying to hurt the child. Chas v'shalom. You're trying to educate them, right? So she was in shock because her father was like the most gentle human being on the planet, basically. And so he came there and he went like this. That was the patch, right? She fainted. She fainted. He waited for her to wake up, and he gave her the second patch. Right? He said that was what we decided. It wasn't coming from a place of anger. It wasn't to hurt her. It was that right. So it made the message, and it became the story that we have.
The message of the patch.
Right. The message. It's not. You're not trying to leave a bruise on the child that they should chas v'shalom, that they should right. The scar. You're not trying to scar them. You're trying to build them. Right.
See, I remember one time with my brother, I was trying to mess with my brother, and I sneak up behind him and I grab his leg really hard, right, at the kneecap, and he's like, ah, and he gets so angry and he starts hitting me. We start fighting, and then my dad, I remember my dad was right there, and my dad did it even harder, and he's squealing and laughing,
To your brother.
To my brother. My dad did it harder to me, to my brother, but my brother was squealing and laughing when my dad did it.
Oh, so when
I did it, it was enough to drive him crazy. So he's punching me, but I didn't even softer,
you're right. So the message of it, as opposed to the strength of it.
Same message.
Right. Yeah. Nice example. Right. Okay, so back inside.
I feel like if you wait too long, though, you could allow these feelings to fester within you, and then, if you wait too long and you let it could build. I think if you. You shouldn't say it immediately, maybe, but if you wait too long, you
Right.
might be like, I've been holding on to this for so long.
Right. So I would say I would separate it into two different categories. One is the category of a father to his children, or a mother to their children, or to students, or ben adam l'chevra, between friends or between spouses, right? If I've got something that I'm holding on to, you got me upset, you hurt my feelings. So the Rambam says, and this is talking about between spouses or between friends, or even between children, if they're a little bit older and the relationship is such. So the Rambam says you're not allowed to hold it in. You have to say to the person, "Lama asita li kach v'kach." Why did you do this to me? Because he says if you're struggling and you're having hatred towards him because of it, so then it's a problem, because it says Lo tisnat achicha bilvavecha. You're not allowed to hate a fellow Jew even for a moment.
So you say it immediately?
You should say it as soon as you can. However, you don't want to do it in a time where your emotions are so hot that it could turn into something that it doesn't have to be, because you're really trying to resolve it. So you have to make sure you're coming from a place of trying to resolve it and that you're able to resolve it. But when it comes between a parent and a child, so here it's not an equal playing field. It's my job to educate you. It's my job to raise you. And if I'm trying to educate you and teach you something, it has to be 100% about you and not about me. So my emotions, if I'm having emotions about it, so I need to go talk to Rabbi Micha, I need to go talk to Micha, I need to go talk to my friend Yankee, whatever it is, I got to work out my emotions. I'm not gonna act out my emotions in the name of educating my child. Does that make sense? All right. So it's two different things. So you're absolutely right. Like, and you're also right about the fact that if I've got emotions that are festering, I got to deal with them. Right. I can't sweep them under the rug. I got to take care of them. Right. But ideally, and this is maybe one of the greatest challenges, is when my relationship with my child is that my stuff is my stuff, right? And I take care of it, and I don't make them bear the brunt of it, right? Alavai, make a tefillah to Hashem. Hashem should give us koach, all of us, everywhere, every parent, and all of us that Hashem will be parents, that we should have the strength to be able to do that, to work out our stuff and to get it clear, and to, right? When the child knows if it's your stuff or if it's about them, and they know, right? So okay, let's go back in. Chaim birtzono, right? That arichusaf, breathe, right? This is also another reason why the Ramban says, Ramban HaKadosh says that all of your kol diborecha yu benachat, all your words should be softly spoken, calmly spoken. Right? The best example, you guys have a Rosh Yeshiva here, and this yeshiva is the best example of calm, soft speech all the time, right? Even when he is worked up about something, right? His worked up about something, is like a, I don't know, it's like a lullaby, right? It's so soft, right? We should train ourselves to speak like that. Also, the Rambam says, if somebody calls you across the room, don't scream, "Hey, yeah, what's going on?" You should. He said, he calls it like an animal screaming across the, right? You should talk calmly, softly, right? These are to train ourselves, right? Because it helps you breathe and not have that physiological response. And this type of patience that we should have in our nose and desire for good should be even for those that are not really worthy of it or deserving of it through their actions or where they're holding at this moment. My nose should be in such a way, so to speak, right, that I'm always wanting to fill the requests and the needs of other people, and to answer any question, any need that a person should have. Yes, my dear. What can I help you with? Right? Not like servitude. I'm at your beck and call. Like, what can I do? Like, people should look at you, gentlemen, and say, this is a man who's here, who cares about others, right? In a very basic way, you not because of your status in the world. You want it to be so clear that your message and your behavior is so clear to people that they view you as a giver. This is a person who's in this world. He's trying to give, right? And you know what that does to people. Right, so in America, we say, if you give too much, everybody's going to come try to take. So you got to be careful. Don't be too giving, right? But the truth is, it has the opposite effect. If you're truly giving for others' sake, right? So people want to be around that. They want to emulate that. It's so beautiful. How do you do that? How do you do that? Teach me how to do that, right? Or they study you, they watch you, right? And that doesn't mean with money. It means however you're able to give. Every single one of you is able to do it with your nose, patience, give the time, listen through something, right? Each one of us is able to do that. Ulachayot kol nidke, and to give life to those that are depressed, right? To give life to those that are depressed. Umotzi, that meaning that should be our desire. Umotzi michotmot tamid mechilat avon v'havarat pesha. And what should we draw out of our nose? We should draw out of our nose forgiveness for a person's iniquities, for their shortcomings. V'havarat pesha, and overlooking their even the things that they should know better, right? Overlooking it, right? It's an amazing thing. And you want to say something?
Once upon a time, I was in the train, and the one big guy gave me a knockout, or I say, "What are you doing?" And the one guy started to discuss with him and punching him with the yeah, and they say, "Thank you." And there was a silence. Everybody look at me and look when the guy got punched. And then I say, "Never mind. Maybe you learn."
To the guy that pushed you.
It push you.
Wow. Yeah. Beautiful.
I remember.
Beautiful. There's a story that one of my Rebbes told me just a couple of weeks ago. It's like a story for like a movie, but since he was there, so you can trust it. This is one of my Rabbanim. He was in touch with a tzaddik that used to live in Netanya. They called him the Saba min Netanya, right? The grandpa from Netanya. He was this old chassid. Amazing stories about him. Each one is just like priceless. And so he called my Rabbi. My Rabbi's name is Rostovsky, from years ago. So he called him. He said, Rostovsky, I need you to come to me. There's something that I have to do. So he said, okay, when would you like me to come? He said, right now. So this is what the tzaddikim, he said, I need you to come right now. How quick can you be here? So he lived in Beit Shemesh. So I'll let me see if I can get a ride. He doesn't drive. So he got there. It was nighttime. So he said, great. Okay, don't take your jacket off. Let's go. We're going for a walk. So they go walking. And they go walking through like the more, this is a story that took place about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. They go walking through neighborhoods that, at night, not such a good idea to go walking through those neighborhoods. Two white bearded, long black jacket rabbis holding each other's hands, walking through, talking Torah, and they see this group of large gentlemen that look like they're up to no good, and they're in the dark part of the park or whatever, and they're clearly drug dealers and they're whatever they're doing over there, and so Rostovsky, he notices that the Saba is taking him straight in their direction. So he starts to try to pull a little bit to the left, and no, but he was very strong. He was a Hungarian. He goes straight into the group, and the Saba Netanya was a very little man, and he goes straight up, and go inside, and all the guys are looking at them, and Rostovsky's has no idea because he didn't tell them what they're going to do, and he walks up to the biggest guy there. And he was clearly the leader of the pack, and he looks up and he says, "You're behaving very badly. You're behaving very poorly." And he says, "And you know why you act the way you do? There's one reason, and you know why it is. It's because when you were a boy, nobody told you that they loved you." And he says, "But that doesn't give you an excuse to act the way you do and to treat people the way you do. And now you have no excuse, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm your Saba, and I love you." That's what he told him. And so this was this big guy, tattoos. totally just breaks down crying. Totally just breaks down crying. Lays his head on the side, like leans halfway down to the ground. He's laying on him, and he said, and he's just crying, and he goes like this to the other guys that they shouldn't see him in his moment of softness, and they all go walk away. And Saba says, "Come, you come into my house now." And they start walking back, the three of them, and he's just crying, he's flowing, and Saba says, "I'm gonna be with you for the rest of my life. I'm your Saba. I'm gonna take care of you, but you need to start doing tshuva right now." And he gave him a whole hadracha, a whole course of how his tshuva is going to look. He got him a job somewhere. This guy turned his life around. He's a very, very, very special person. That's what I've heard. And right, so if you feel if I overlook all your stuff, if you feel that right, people that are in a bad place, people that are misbehaving, they know they're misbehaving. For the most part, not everybody, but for the most part, people know that they're misbehaving, right? And they kind of want you to relate to their misbehavior. There is some type of twisted thing that's going on with them that they got to the place that they are, and that's the way that they know how to relate to people, right? When you overlook that and you see the good in them, you change their life. They see that. They feel it, right? I don't see all that shtiyot. I see you, right? There's many stories, but let's keep going. Anyway, the point was clear. So you always have forgiveness for their iniquities, and you overlook all the bad that they're doing. You're seeing the good because you're wanting to give them good. You want their life. You don't want to punish them, right? Like the whole penal system is all set up to hurt people that hurt other people, right?
We were talking about for class there. I used to work in federal law enforcement. I was assigned to.
Oh no! Now I'm in trouble for making a case.
No. I was assigned to Eskimo areas in Alaska. And I went to a conference hosted by the government of British Columbia because we worked. Everybody was called the North of 60 conference. Everybody above the 60 parallel. And what's interesting in some of these native communities in Canada hasn't quite made it to the States yet. They do this thing called restorative justice, where it's the person, because these are tiny communities, they make tshuva to the people they've harmed, and there's a ceremony where they're welcomed back into the fold of the community.
Wow. And
it can be, when you look some of the cases we looked at, people have been in a Canadian penal system for years, and then when offered this opportunity by their communities, the recidivism, the repeating the offenses rate just plummeted. Wow. Because they felt seen as a whole person again. And part of what they did is they were very honest, and I caused these harms, and they also told their whole stories. And so it was very powerful.
Beautiful. Is that only in the Eskimo community?
So as far as I know, it's done in British Columbia, and I believe Nunavut in the Northwest Territories within First Nations like Indians and Eskimos.
Wow.
There are, I think there was a program in Texas where they tried it. I'm less familiar with that in a Hispanic area, but it's one of the ways in the penal system or the justice system that can result in what you want, which is a return to the good behavior and better than just locking somebody up.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that I've got a solution for because there's a lot of people doing a lot of bad things, and we should have to stop them. That's the first thing we have to do, right? From hurting others. But the concept is like exactly what you're saying. Once I'm seen as a whole person, you see the goodness in me, right? And everybody's got that goodness, so then that can be changing a person's life. And also with the nose, he doesn't get angry at someone, even the person sinned against them, a person mistreated him. Always wanting to make peace, always wanting to appease, not in a bad sense, in a good sense, to mashlim with. V'chafetz chesed, desiring chesed, kindness, la'asot nachat ruach lakol, to make nachat ruach to everybody. Now you guys have heard the term. We'll continue, conclude on this. You guys have heard the term to make nachas ruach to Hashem, right? To serve Hashem, to give Hashem nachas, right? To give our parents nachas. Nachas means to give them joy, to give them pleasure, to give them a feeling of satisfaction. Look at my boy. My boy Chickel's learning Torah, right? My look how he davens, and look how, right? So we want Hashem to look down on us. We want to give Hashem that nachas. So the word nachas, this is also from Rav Rostavsky that taught me this years ago. Nachat ruach means the placement of a spirit, resting of a spirit, right? The person's spirit rests. They feel calm. They feel good, right? So it's also much deeper than that. But so it's not just from us towards our parents, our children towards parents, or us towards God. It's also in between ourselves. I want to give you a good feeling, right? I want you to feel good around me. I want you to feel good about yourself around me. I want you to feel accepted around me and loved around me, right? And so if a person is, like he says, he's always tamid chafetz chesed v'lasot nachat ruach lakol. I'm looking how I can make your life a little bit better, right? I'm reading a book right now about Rav Yitzchak Zilber, a famous rabbi from Russia. He lived through the communist era, and he writes his story. What he went through is unbelievable, and how he stayed strong. It very highly recommend. His book is called To Remain a Jew. That's one of the books that he wrote that's translated. And now I'm reading a book by his students and children that wrote stories about him, and they tell these just beautiful stories about how he just wanted people to feel good, and he was willing to accept upon himself suffering. Right, just one story that I've been telling a lot lately is that he was at one of his students' homes for a visit, and there's lots of similar stories like this. I think we even said one a few weeks ago, maybe I can't remember, but and the kids wanted to make the rabbi came to visit. My Abba's rabbi came to visit. They wanted to make him a cup of tea. They knew that he loved tea. Now everybody knew that Rabbi Zilber loved his tea very, very sweet. So they said, Rabbi, how many sugar? And they said 4 or 5, right? My kids love that part of the story. So okay. So they put in 5 heaping spoonfuls, and the only problem was they accidentally put salt. And they give him the cup of tea. He takes the cup of tea and makes a shakot. He says, "Shkoyach, God, I'm so thankful you made this cup of tea." He takes it, drinks the whole thing, right? So the children said, Rabbi, can we give you another? He said, I would love it. It's such a cup of tea. I like this. I haven't had in a long time. And so they make him another cup of tea, 5 spoonfuls of salt, and he drinks it. And right after he drinks the second one, just as quickly as he drank the first one, the children realized, and they were so embarrassed, and they whispered to the father, and the father walked him out, and he said, Rabbi, why didn't you say something? He said they wanted to. Look, I didn't want to take away from them the sweetness of the experience that they were trying to give. They were trying to give me a cup of tea. I didn't want them to feel bad, even though it's not their fault, it's not my fault. And it's such a simple thing. You can say, "Oh, this one has salt. Nothing happened." I wanted to give them. He said, "But I'll tell you, my doctor told me that I'm not even allowed even a little bit of salt." That 10 spoonfuls. So, B'ezrat Hashem, we should be zocheh to drink lots of cups of tea that are sweet. But the sweetness doesn't come from the flavor that's in the tea. It comes from our desire to bring good into this world. B'ezrat Hashem. Right. So he said. So the rabbi said. He said, "I'm so grateful."